was fine. It was fine. Not much to talk about. Not much to say. Pretty uneventful year, really. Just yeah, it's fine. And how are you? Okay, look, really we all know 2020 was the year equivalent of a very fucked up game of The Sims, but who cares? When it comes to video games, this year was actually pretty sick, which of course brings us to Jum Jum's top 10 games of 2020. A few quick school announcements before we start. One, as always, please remember the 3 golden rules. This is a personal list, this is all just my opinion, and everlasting glory to the bourgeoisie. 2, for the sake of originality, I like to exclude remakes or remasters from these lists, which means you won't see any Demon Souls, Final Fantasy, Resi 3, Destroy All Humans, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, that SpongeBob game, Trials of Mana, that shitty XII thing they did, Warcraft. Fuck, there really were a lot this year, weren't there? And 3, I do quickly want to mention a few games that won't be on this list, not because they weren't good enough, but because of personal reasons. Like Cyberpunk, because I'm still playing it, any of the PS5 launch games, because I haven't got a PS5 yet, and I refuse to play them on a last-gen console like some kind of dumpster-diving, slop-sucking peasant boy! And The Last of Us Part 2. Not because I think it's a bad game, because I really don't, I just know that I'm excluding it, not because of the quality of the actual game, but because I know putting it anywhere would cause yet more debate about this fucking thing, and I just don't care anymore. I'm like the old soldier man in the movie, you know? I'm like, I ain't got no more fight left in me, kid, you gotta go on without me. Fighting's a young man's game, boy, you gotta just leave me. Anyway, let's fucking do this. Now, the number 10 game was actually really tricky to pick this time, because like I said, there were a lot of bangers this year that I really enjoyed, like Wasteland 3, Fall Guys, Marvel's Avenger, and your sweet fucking dreams. And it was actually really hard to pick which games to leave off and which one to include. But in the end, I decided to go with Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Not just because it's a very worthy successor to the original trilogy, not just because it managed to improve the gameplay formula whilst keeping the original game's vibes, and not just because it has some of the best hand-animated cutscenes I've ever seen, but because of this.
So what? I'm funny now? I'm a funny guy just because I'm dressed like a clown? I suppose you think I shouldn't have a gun either!
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just adore all the dumb outfits you can unlock for Crash and Coco in this game, and I think they're a really good reward for 100%ing the levels. I mean, it does mean you actually have to try to 100% the levels, which, as we all know, turns Crash Bandicoot from fun and wacky platformer into... But whatever, Crash 4 is great and everything, but real quick, why did this game have to make every single Crash game apart from the original 3 non-canon? I mean, I really liked Twinsanity and Tag Team Racing, and even Wrath of Cortex was alright, like why'd you have to make every single one of them not count? Oh, I see, that's why. Okay, I understand perfectly now, thank you so much, I love you. So one type of game we saw a lot of this year were roguelikes, or roguelites, maybe. I don't know what the difference is. We had that neon one, and the anime one, and the funky one, and I didn't play all of them, obviously, because, like I said, fucking look at all these, Jesus Christ. But I definitely played my fair share, and because there were so many good ones, I'll be putting 3 of them on this list, starting with this one, Scourgebringer. And basically, Scourgebringer is kind of like, oh, get that guy, get that guy, get that guy, no, get that guy, get, don't stop. Get that guy, get that one too! Yeah, get him to fuck him up! Fuck it! Yeah, it's one of those games where if you touch the floor even for a second, you're not playing it right. It's just non-stop, insanely fast-paced action every time you play, and honestly, it's kinda fucking great. I mean, it's not perfect, you know, the environments lack variety, it can sometimes feel repetitive, and don't ever play on a keyboard unless you want to hammer the shift key so much your little finger snaps the fuck off. But it's still a crazy fun game that deserved a lot more love than it got, so go and buy it and enjoy it and bring the Scourge. Cause I forgot mine at home and I really need it, so if you could bring it, that would be great, please and thank you. You know how Assassin's Creed started off as a fun and unique game series that changed the industry and influenced countless other games around it, and now it's like a, Let's see, how do I phrase this delicately? A big stinky poop. That's it, that's the one. But then Ghost of Tsushima came along and was like, hey boys, how about we do that whole Assassin's Creed thing again, but without the ridiculous microtransactions and unnecessary enemy levels, and maybe just like a scooch less of the stinky poo-poo maybe? And the whole world was like, yes, let's do that, and Ubisoft was like, we don't give a shit, we're rich as fuck, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla was like... But yeah, I'm not saying Ghost of Tsushima is just a samurai version of Assassin's Creed or anything, I am just saying that it's sick as hell. If you saw my review on it, you'd know that I wasn't as crazy about this one as some others, but still, it's a beautifully made game that's incredibly polished, very entertaining, and Assassin's Creed sucks shit. Number 7! Ah, Spiritpharah. What a delightful, adorable, heartwarming, and deeply fucked up game this is. I gotta say, I really wasn't expecting it to tackle such hard-hitting subjects. I mean, I went in expecting a jovial adventure with some adorable animal friends, and went out with a new understanding of my mortality and a very sad boner. And personally, I just love how the game takes such a somber situation and makes it genuinely quite beautiful in its own way. I mean, you basically play as the fucking Grim Reaper escorting dead souls to the other side, and yet the actual game is about making friends, growing food, and hugging everybody you meet. Oh my god, look at the frog guy, I love him so much! The game is basically Stardew Valley meets The Divine Comedy, and surprisingly, it's a combination that works really well. Like, this is genuinely a beautiful game. The writing is endearing yet touching, the animation is absolutely wonderful, and even though it takes place in the afterlife, it's very much a game about life in all its complicated splendor. And also, you can pet a kitty whenever you want, so that's pretty fucking epic. And now we have the second roguelike to dare to show its face around these parts again, Spelunky 2. I fucking despise this video game. Seriously, Spelunky 2 is one of the most deviously difficult video games I've ever played, because it literally tricks you into thinking it's not that hard. Like, you start out your run and you think, this is fine, it's just snakes and bats that die in one hit, and I can get a turkey to make it way easier, and as long as I take it slow, I should be fine. As long as I take it slow, I should be fine. As long as I take it slow, I should be fine. As long as I take it slow, I should be fine! It's the kind of game that fucking dupes you into playing it, and I hate it for that. But I also love it for that, because otherwise I wouldn't be putting it on this list or flagellating myself every time I accidentally kill the dog. No! I gotta say, as far as sequels go, I think Spelunky 2 did it just right. I mean, the first Spelunky was so loved, not just because of its replayability, but because of its simplicity. It was the ultimate pick-up-and-play game that you could just chill out with for half an hour before getting all your hearts wiped out by some bullshit and becoming very not chilled out for half an hour. And I know some people think Spelunky 2 didn't change enough to feel like a proper sequel, but personally I really like the stuff they did add, and I feel like if they put in too much unnecessary clutter it would have ruined that wonderful Spelunky vibe. But they didn't, and it didn't, so good job Spelunky 2. But actually, though, instead of all that, fuck you, though. You're not even on the list anymore, so get that weak shit out of my house. At number 5, we have Doom Eternal. 'Cause, like, duh, right? Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Oh, just mwah, you know, just fucking mwah, mwah, mwah. God, I just want to slice it up nice and put it on a plate and serve it to someone I love, you know? It's like a big, satisfying gourmet pizza of a video game. Just a delight to all the senses. Sight, hearing, touch, and I haven't smelled it yet, but I'm sure it's lovely. Everything about this game is just good, you know? Like, it looks absolutely gorgeous, the music and sound design is spot on, it all controls like butter, and just fucking, you know? And what really impressed me about this game, aside from, you know, everything, is just how big it is. The amount of areas and how different they all felt, the amount of upgrades and items and how fun they were to use, the crazy amount of side quests and collectibles. There's just way more content here than I was expecting, and I really admire how the game managed to keep up its great level of quality throughout all of it. Basically, Ori's just the total package, man. It's the filthy slam dunk right on the buzzer, it's the cool side of the pillow when it hits just right, and it's a really funny third example I'll put in later. And finally, we arrive at the third roguelike on the list, and the best one of the year in my opinion. You guessed it, it's Hades. Say it, fucking say anything, I dare you. Honestly, I was quite surprised by how much this one blew up on the internet. I mean, I was expecting it to be popular, cause it's super giant and a roguelike and very, very horny, but damn, this game got a lot of love, and don't get me wrong, it deserves absolutely all of it. I think at this point, Supergiant are basically just the Beatles of indie games. Like, it doesn't matter what genre they take on, they fucking nail it every time. Hack and slash RPGs, nail it. Isometric action games, nail it. Whatever the hell Pyre was supposed to be, fucking nail it. And Hades is no different. In fact, it might even be their best work in my opinion. The art style, the game feel, the replayability, the unprecedented amount of story content for a roguelike. I care about a boulder. You made me care about a round chunk of rock, Hades. Can you do that, Valorant? No! 'Cause you suck! So Crusader Kings 3 is at number 2 here, and in case you didn't know, there's actually a ruler creator in the game now, so I feel like it would almost be a disservice to the game if I didn't, Yeah, some of you may think I'm putting this game too high considering some of the other games I have on this list, but I can't help it, man. This game is the devourer of my time. I think it's actually quite hard to explain exactly why Crusader Kings 3 is so amazing to someone who hasn't experienced its weird-ass magnificence for themselves. So basically, if you haven't played the game, it's an insanely addicting, engaging, and bizarre experience where you play as a medieval ruler, build up a nation, and create these wonderful little stories just for yourself. And if you have played the game, fucking vassals, am I right? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. This guy gets it. And Crusader Kings 3 really is the absolute peak of this kind of game. It was instantly as good as Crusader Kings 2 and its 500 expansions. It continues to release free updates that make it even better, and basically it's just a total triumph. And of course we can't forget about them. I want you to show me. And so we've come to number 1. The best of the best, the cream of the crop, and the game you've probably already guessed by now because I'm very predictable. But like I said earlier, I know there were a shit ton of great games this year, and I'm sure I've missed a lot, and I obviously can't mention them all, and I'm too lazy to do honorable mentions. So, this year I decided to reach out to some of my YouTuber chums and get them to quickly talk about their favorite games from 2020. I figured that way we can hear about more games, you guys can get some different perspectives, and I can leech off people more popular than me like the filthy little mosquito I am. Please like and subscribe.
I'm often asked, hey, what's your favorite video game of 2020? And the answer I always have to give is Animal Crossing, because it's like chores, and that's really fun.
I'd say my game of the year for 2020 would have to be Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. It's not like we're living in an age of calamity right now. Get it?
My favorite game of 2020 is probably The Last of Us 2. Cause, I don't know, bruh. It is what it is.
I'll say my favorite game of this year, as cliche as it might be, is Animal Crossing. It came out at the most convenient time as the world was going to shit.
My favorite 20th game from the year 20 is Mahjong 1920. It's a really good game. You know, there's a pandemic going on, Spanish flu, and well, you gotta stay inside the house. You gotta stay in the house. And you play Mahjong. You know, you play Mahjong. It's kind of like Domino. It's not the same, of course, but it has the same things, kinda. We had Monopoly, but no one wants to play that game, to be honest. But yeah, Mahjong. Really good competitive game from the 1920s. No, we don't play Cyberpunk in this house. Oh, hell no. Well, you want to play that game? What do you think I'm gonna lose?
This might be a little bit of a controversial take, but I like Cyberpunk 2077 because even though the game has more bugs than a South American nursery, and sometimes that alone is enough to pull you out of the immersion of the game and ruin the pacing and the flow so much that you end up feeling like a British rapper by the end of it, once I started to look at the game for what it is instead of what it could have been, I started to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, so Crash 4 reminded me you don't always have to shoot for 100% in whatever you do because sometimes it's just not worth it. A game hasn't driven me to tears since I played Blast Corps Oyster Harbor level earlier this year. I didn't think it could get any worse than that, but here we are.
Yeah, I don't know, like, it didn't feel like many games came out this year. I mean, maybe it was just because my favorite game of the year was just one from 2017, but with some different clothes on. Now, I know what you're asking, is this a cop-out answer? Yeah.
Wowee, wasn't that great? I'm so sorry it's over and you have to listen to me again now. But anyway, it's time for number 1. It was a year of fierce competition, but in my opinion, this is the best game of 2020. And it was mentioned like twice by my guests already, so you probably got it by now. Animal Crossing New Horizons, cause once again, fucking duh. Yeah, maybe it's an unoriginal pick, but after the impact this game had on my year, I really couldn't not put it at number 1. Cause Lee was absolutely right, this game came out at the perfect time to fill a hole in all our lives that desperately needed filling, and if there's one thing I love, it's getting my hole filled, badum-tish. And this game really managed to distract me and occupy my thoughts in a time when I could have been totally panicking. Like, I know it sounds cheesy, but this game genuinely helped me a lot this year, and 2020 may have been shit, but I feel like it would have been a whole lot more shit if it weren't for Animal Crossing New Horizons. And yeah, I don't really have much to say about the actual game that you haven't heard already, so to close off this video, I'm just gonna put in that intro I did from my New Horizons review, cause I love it, and why the hell not? So yeah, that's about it. A big thanks to everybody who lended their voices, big thanks to you for watching, and here's to a slightly less shitty 2021. Here we go. This game got me like... Okay, thanks, Merry Christmas.